Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the Nordic Championship. My name is Jake Hitprey Matthews, and I am joined by Dan Orcs Harrison as we kick day 2 of week 3 here off at the Nordic Championship. Dan, yesterday actually set us up for an incredible day today. We got a lot of teams tied currently in rankings. I think our key one to watch really is going to be Vipers versus Singularity, both 4-1 apiece, and the winner of the second game of the day will decide who comes out in first and who is second here in the Nordic Championship.
Yeah, so that's a big battle, but also coming up first, we have Nordavind against Bifrost, which I think is, again, an opportunity for Nordavind to turn their luck around.
Yeah.
They haven't had a win since week 1, and even then it was not a convincing one, where they ended up having all 3 of their inhibitors down. Enemy team had Baron, and it was only just from one team fight turnaround that they got a point on the board. So definitely an opportunity for them to step up. But the other games I feel like are fairly even in terms of standings, but also just the way the teams have been playing so far. So I think we've got some hypey matchups. We've obviously had a ton of upsets, so I feel like there's been no match in the Nordics where I've been like, this is a team who'll definitely win.
I think that's what's been so fun about it, is the amount of upsets we've had. And, you know, where we thought some of our top teams were going to be, i.e. Nordavind, and now they are sitting at the bottom of the barrel, and they really, really need to make this work. But let's have a little look at our standings and see where all of the teams currently sit. At the top, we have Singularity and Vipers tied. That will be decided in our second game of the day. And then, oh my lord, everyone below but Nordavind is tied. Bifrost, Atlanta, Hillerod, Dusty, and Hybrid all on 2 and 3. A lot of that will get ironed out today, though, as most of these teams, actually, all 4 of those teams will be going up versus each other. So we're going to have 2 more ties after the matches today. But, man, Nordavind, they are in a rough spot because once this leaderboard starts to kind of pan out, if they're not finding wins now, they're going to be really far behind the rest of the pack.
Yeah, and especially as next week is the halfway point. So after day 1, that'll be half the matches done. If Nordavind are still struggling with 1 win at that point, it's going to be hard for them to even make playoffs, let alone actually perform in them. So it's a big ask, and they really need the turnaround today up against Bifrost. But that's a tricky matchup. Bifrost, though, they're a little bit inconsistent in the fact that they are the team who have beaten Vipers and Singularity. So they've actually beaten the top 2 teams and given them their only defeat so far.
Yeah.
But at the same time, they've also managed to lose to other teams in the league lower than them in the standings. So Bifrost, definitely a team that aren't impossible to beat, but if they're prepared for you, their drafts have been really intelligent, and it's allowed them to find these solid victories.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's have a little look at our matchups for today, see who's playing who. We'll be starting the day off with Nordavind versus Bifrost. We'll dive into that a little bit in a second. Then our second game of the day is the decider for first and second. Team Singularity taking on Vipers Inc. Then we'll have Dusty taking on Hybrid Esports as our third matchup of the day. And Lando Esports versus Hillerod Esports will be our fourth and final match. Now, these last 2 games actually will be deciding our current, like, 4th to 6th. No. Like, those teams are all tied. Those 4 teams are all tied with one another at the moment. So it's a lot to play for here because it, again, puts you at an advantage coming into that halfway point next week.
Yeah, and I think week 3, it's pretty hard to sort of really set the message that 1 point here and there will matter. But we may get to the point when we get up to week 7 where it really can define where these teams end up. And with so many so close to each other, those playoff spots are going to be hard to contend. Because right now, there is clearly 3 teams who are outliers with Bifrost, Singularity, and Vipers.
Yeah.
But there isn't a 4th team as of yet. And also, there's very much position for that to change. Singularity handed their first loss yesterday. And also looking a little bit rough. Even the game that they lost day 2 of last week was not a convincing one. It came down to 1 player stepping up for the team, but the other 4, a little bit underwhelming. So I think if they want to sort of keep that dominance in the league, Vipers is a good opportunity for them to show that they are still the #1 team, and that was just an upset. But Vipers, very much, I think they have an opportunity to take them out here.
Yeah, I genuinely think they do, and I think that's what's really exciting about the Nordic Championship, is it seems like every team is pretty much capable of beating each other. And it means that we have a very explosive tournament where teams, you know, these wins can be passed backwards and forwards. Nordavind were the favourites coming into this tournament. They're now currently going up versus Bifrost in our first matchup of the day. And Bifrost, a team who they did actually look good on paper. We thought that anyway coming into the league. But being able to beat the 2 undefeated teams so far, back-to-back as well, they've really, really impressed me, Bifrost. And on paper, you look at this game and how the teams have been performing so far in the first 3 weeks, is this should just be Bifrost games to win. But honestly, it's so hard to call it here in the Nordic Championship because the teams just seem to, like, yep, they got this game and then they throw it out the window. They int it super hard. So you never know. This could be Nordavind's chance to get themselves that second win here.
Yeah, and I think draft is going to be a really important factor here. Always usually is, but here in particular, Bifrost have shown some really intelligent drafts where they've sort of drafted in a position where they can handle everything that the team throws at them. And I think despite the star power in Nordavind's roster, they've kind of sometimes put themselves in a difficult situation. I think Chrisberg has been consistently on the immobile AD carry hype train, playing things like Senna, Misfortune, and the Aphelios, and sometimes that just hasn't been able to do enough for the team because he's basically in a position where he can't play the game. We saw, I believe it was Hybrid up against him who ran the Jarvan Gangplank Ziggs, and every team fight they'd just ult him and follow up, and there was nothing he can do. And then on top of that, I think the other issue Nordavind had is they put Nitro on something that needs to pop off early, and then when he doesn't, the game kind of falls apart. And I think I would like to see Nitro on something a little bit more scaling, a little bit more you don't have to win in the first few levels or the game's over. I think aesthetic on something that can engage well and be a consistent threat rather than sometimes picking things like Silas, which take a lot for those to work. And then Chrisberg, plenty even just move him off the immobile AD carry so that it's a guarantee that in team fights he's able to do something. That's the big sort of directions potentially go right now. We see the bans coming through. Nordavind on blue side have the freedom to kind of target heavily. So we're seeing the Draven and the Bard coming out as bans away from Bifrost bot lane. We also see Fiala sometimes have Riven banned away from him. So we could see Nordavind just going for target bans on that first rotation. But Bifrost, they've decided to opt for some power picks in the current meta.
Yeah, taking away that Kiana and that Rumble. Now, Nordavind looking for their third and final ban. Is it going to be the likes of that Riven? Is it going to be, you know, a comfort pick denied from Bifrost, or are they going to look towards the meta? They're going towards the meta a little bit here, taking away that Soroka. Super flexible, super repressive, and we saw Fiala take the Sona top lane yesterday, and it didn't play top lane. It just played the map.
Yeah, it was pretty solid for him. And
that face made me think you had something to say there.
I was just thinking about the matchup, and it was really specifically good against Nili because of the fact that Nili wasn't able to lane against him and find advantages because Fiala was just never there. So showed that they were willing to adapt in that regard. Question is, will they bring it out again today? I don't think it's necessarily the thing you specifically need. And I really like this Jarvan for aesthetic. I really like this pick. I think it's something that can apply early pressure, but also scales well. And it denies it from the other team because Chrisberg has had a lot of difficulty facing up against anti-AD carry champions like the Jarvan, like the Zac that we saw. And as well, Shackle, one of his best performances was on the Jarvan itself. So
yeah, absolutely.
Really appreciate this first pick coming out. Now Bifrost in a position to answer.
Now, as the Diana gets locked in, you do think about the potential team fighting power that champion brings with a big ultimate from the, I can't remember the name of it now, Pale Cascade? I can't remember. Anyway, what we have is something that we've been hitting on quite a lot, especially you yesterday we're talking about ease of execution. If you draft a good team fighting comp with a clear win condition, like a clear almost wombo combo to throw down, these teams seem to be doing better. That's what we've seen Bifrost locking a few times here. Now they're going for the Yasuo, so maybe feeling a little bit adventurous here, moving out into something else. Now I expect this to probably be a Diana jungle, and then Energy takes the Yasuo, but there is the potential to put the Diana mid and the Yasuo top lane. So there's still a little bit of flexibility here to Bifrost. You could even opt into the Yasuo bot, but that's a very confident blind pick. Yeah, it's a bit of a bold one, but I think the power of it is that you can use it as a flex. So if it does go to take set, they can potentially threaten to put it mid. Does make things tricky. I think for me, this is definitely anti-AD carry. The Diana Yasuo combo is so threatening, but unlike the compositions we've been talking about with ease of execution, both these champions are a little bit harder to navigate than what Nordavind have picked up so far. And I think with Nordavind on a really rough streak, I think taking things like the Leona for Advian, the Jarvan as well, it's pretty simple, easy going. Oh my
Misfortune
Lord.
for Chrisberg. If he can position well on this, great. But my big concerns is if he gets jumped on by the Diana, he's going to go down.
Yeah.
The wind wall can threaten him a lot. But I do like that they've drafted a really powerful bot lane. This is one of the strongest in the current meta, even with the nerfs to MF, which were only late game attack speed growth. So I think the fact that if they do end up taking the likes of the Yasuo in the bot lane, if Leona gets on top of you and stuns you up, the Make It Rain procs her passive, and you'll actually do a formidable amount of damage to him, even if the wind wall comes up.
It really is that ease of execution composition. It's easy engage. You can layer everything down. Obviously, the wind wall can hard shut down what Chrisberg offers to that fight. but they still got a lot they can pack in. We don't know what else is getting logs in. If you got like a Ziggs or something in for Nita here, then you've just got like this big AoE zone that no one wants to touch.
Yeah, I think the thing with Ziggs though is that it's not necessarily something that every mid laner will play. It's a bit more like this is specifically what a mid laner will bring out. And Mordekaiser ban makes sense because that can actually deal with the Yasuo, and then it stops the Windwall from being available. And then I would also potentially like to see a Gangplank ban away, because I think that great at playing weak side for Wazor. Also, you can ult on top of the AoE. Great for setting up fights. Good thing as well is that because because Leona's already been taken, Braum isn't really an option for the side of Nordavind to deny that on engage. And because they've taken Yasuo themselves, it essentially means that Fiala will be able to take engages when he wants. But we have to hold out because we did see Ornn get flexed to jungle yesterday. It can go mid. There's still a lot of flexibility within Bifrost composition for now. And it makes it a little bit tricky to ban against, but Nordavind's expectation is that the support hasn't been picked. And by denying the Thresh, it limits the effectiveness, it limits the counter ability, not just on the Leona, because you can obviously flay out the Zenith Blade, but also from the Jarvan Cataclysm, you can lantern them out.
Alrighty, well, that's the Vladimir ban away, followed up by the Aphelios here. So Gangplank is still available, will allow Wazor to play that weak side, does offer him, you know, some utility within this AoE team fight, but Nordavind have drafted here. Now Bifrost looking for an AD carrier and a bot laner, looking for a support, sorry. Unless that is an Ornn support and then they take away the Gangplank as a potential here.
It's
that is
really
technically an option.
Grag is still open as well. If they're putting Ornn support and they're going, you know, Yasuo top, down a mid, you could go the Gragas, but it looks like I expect at this point it's going to be the Yasuo bot lane, the set top lane, or potentially even jungle. It's really hard to call. Bifrost a lot of flexibility. The thing is, flexibility can be good, but you have to end up with everyone in comfortable matchups on the right role. If you're just picking things to be flexible for the sake of being flexible, may not pan out, but we'll have to see how things end up at the end of the draft. Nordavind, however, Aatrox typically the thing we see taken into the set, but you could still go in a different direction. Ryze, I like, especially if this is going towards Nita. I like something that doesn't need a crush early game to be relevant. I feel like overall Nordavind going in a good direction with this draft.
Yeah, absolutely. This is the thing, is if you flex too much, you will snap. So Bifrost, they need to kind of figure out what is going where. And this last pick will decide Bifrost composition.
I think it's Gangplank or Aatrox. It's got to be one of the two. Yeah, I really favor the Gangplank in this situation. I like Nordavind's draft. I think these picks are all strong in the meta. They've got scaling, but they've also got early pressure they can apply. They have the power of the Cannon Barrage to play around. This is the ease of execution that we've been looking for from Nordavind. There's no, oh, Nita needs to win lane, otherwise the game is doomed. There's no sort of avenue where if they don't hit their mark, their power spikes at a certain time, the game's over. And now we see things locked in for Bifrost. And this is pretty wild altogether coming out in this draft. Just a lot of flex picks rounding out with the Azir in the mid lane. So it will be Yasuo Ornn in the bot lane, Diana jungle for Shackle, and then Fiala on set and Energy on that Azir. Flexibility is the big talking point here.
Yep.
But I think bot lane's going to be rough. Really rough pre-6. There is no situation where Chrisberg and Adrian should really be coming out behind in that matchup. Mid lane, essentially just going to be a farming matchup for the most part, although the concern is that Azir isn't as formidable in the side lane later on. He does outrange the Ryze though, so he can actually apply pressure if he wants to. But the thing is, he has the threat of a Jarvan on the other side, whereas Diana isn't really going to be ganking as much early. You can actually now, since the changes, because you have that dash available as early as level 3. But the issue is you're not really doing as much as a Jarvan is in those early skirmishes. And top lane, for the most part, probably just going to see farming where, I mean, there is potential for Fiala to apply pressure, but it's going to be a bit tricky. Overall, I think Bifrost, again, showing that huge flexibility in drafts, not just in flex picks, but they've shown a variety of styles coming through.
Yeah.
But I think Nordavind have maybe hit the mark here. I think this is the composition that if they're going to win, it's going to be this one. We'll just have to see how they play out and if they can stick to their win conditions.
They have an insanely good team fight here for Nordavind. And, you know, if this game snowballs in Bifrost, it's going to feel really, really hard for Nordavind to get back in the game. But they always have a wombo combo effectively available to them. That even if they do fall behind, you find that Cataclysm into the Solar Flare, into the Bullet Time, into the Cannon Barrage, and multiple members, the health bars are going to melt. You'd have to be massively far behind for that to really not to hit the mark.
I think there are aspects that can sort of stop that from being possible. If they get on top of Crispig, he's not going to be able to use the bullet time. The wind wall can counteract it. I think the big thing with the side of Bifrost is that they have so many threats that can dive as well. It's a little bit of a scattered team comp in the fact that you have an Azir, but then you also have Yasuo, Diana trying to dive. But essentially, they want to make the life of these backline carries difficult. They want to make Niter and Crispig in teamfights feel threatened and unable to get on damage. Whereas Nordavind, they would love just a good old front-to-back team fight where the front line end up fighting each other and the carries just sit back and just put out damage, because for the side of Nordavind, you have the Rise and the Misfortune who are very capable of doing that. Whereas for the side of Bifrost, it's really just the Azir. But there's definitely always potential for this Bifrost composition. I've seen the Diana Yasuo combo before where you use both of those ults together. It's devastating. It's like Gragas Yasuo level, but potentially even more damage available if you manage to group up a ton of people. So we'll have to see if it can pay off. I think it is a harder to execute composition for Bifrost, which does, I mean, like I said, this is the situation where Nordavind are going to find their way back into this split. This is it, but we'll have to see.
We're definitely going to have to see. Just taking a look down the keystones here, pretty much everything is what you would expect. A lot of Conquerors on Bifrost, but they obviously have got the Sejuani, the Yasuo, and the Diana, who can all run that. Lethal tempo for energy in the mid lane. Typical real Azir pickup. There was a while where people ran Meteor, and it was like the Q max. You just look for poke with the Q, but most people now on the Azir just opt into that lethal tempo because they want the attack speed. They want to be able to kind of cut you down with the soldiers as quick as possible. It's a cleanse for energy as well in the lane, respecting the, you know, Niter could set up for a set up for a gank with obviously the root.
Negates the Roman pressure to an extent of Advian as well, and I think this is less so a defensive rune than it is an offensive rune. And the reason being is that realistically, there should never be a situation where the current iteration of Rise gets a root onto you, because he has to bounce a spell flux, then he has to use his rune prison. But what having cleanse does is it means the energy can play extremely aggressive up in the face of Niter, and then if he does get rooted or Advian roams up, he can cleanse it and he can dash back to his tower. So I think this is an aggressive rune choice, the fact that you're allowing yourself to apply more pressure because you're not threatened by the all-in, for me, coming out from energy. And I think he needs to try and make a lot happen in the mid lane in terms of priority, because Shackle, this early game is very much going to be orchestrated about him, because Fiala, ideally for Wazor, shouldn't really be able to do much. In the bot lane, they're basically at the whim of Crispig and Advian until they hit level 6. See, just an invade coming in to get a ward down, but nothing else going to come from that.
Yeah, I don't want to overcommit. I don't want to get caught out here. Bifrost slop that ward down and head over to their lanes. You can see Shackle starting up on the red side. So it does mean that Takes is going to be able to get into the bot lane as quick as possible. Doesn't want to get hit by a level 2 advantage to Nordavind, because his lane's going to become infinitely harder if they've got the level advantage on them. Aesthetic is going to solo out the red buff here. They want to make sure that they're matching the bot lane for Crispig and Advian there.
And the big question is going to be, where does Aesthetic want to apply the pressure? Bot lane, very much an easy one to go for. Especially could go for a level 2 gank, but it's actually just going to go for an invade onto the blue buff of Shackle. And that sweep was actually very late, because if there was a ward over the back of the Dragon Pit, he would have been spotted and not known it. So a little bit risky to use the sweeper so late, but ultimately he wasn't spotted, and Takes it and Pedersen not really in a position to contest. I think they're going over the ward potentially. But they're level 1. There is really no threat towards a Jarvan in this situation. And you can see that Shackle's opted just to map split here. So he knows his bot lane are in no position to contest. He's just going to end up taking all the camps on the top side. Or at least this blue. But it looks like Aesthetic's staying around. So the ideal situation for Shackle would just be to clear pretty fully. And personally, who that hurts the most is Wazor at the moment, who is pretty pushed up in his lane and could be vulnerable for a gank, but for now, they're looking for a dive.
This is a dive. Takes it. Is level 1, remember. Takes the stun. The knockout comes out, though. Pedersen trying to get some damage down there. Knight first blood. Aesthetic will tick down, but it's a kill for Takes it. A 2 for 2 in the long run. And actually, Bifrost, they can be pretty happy with that. They got the jungler down.
Yeah, a little bit messy. Flash from Advian, honestly unnecessary. Takes it. If you wait for him to leave the tower, then sure, then you can go for the flash. But when he's still under tower, burning your flash essentially means that you're not getting out.
He has 1 CS though, so that kill was...
Yeah, it's a big denial from the bot lane. I think that's a big thing to take away from it. So it still works in that regard. The execution, a little bit scuffed from Nordavind. The tower aggro balancing wasn't great, but now Advian's moved up here.
Yeah, Shackle's going to get knocked up. Weisel's also rotating. Shackle has to just flash over the wall to get away.
Nice dash, though, to avoid the Zenith Blade. So still some nice things coming out from Shackle. For the most part, Nordavind trying to be really proactive, and I like this from Advian. I like when he's roaming and trying to make his presence known on the map. It's good to see so far. And Aesthetic, yes, a little bit of a misplay in that dive in the bot lane, but again, proactivity in the early game is what I like to see. Nordavind have scaling still, so they have that late game insurance on the composition. That doesn't mean they just need to stand back and let the game be decided by who outscales. And Aesthetic and Advian working well in tandem here, just moving about, because there's very little threat to Crispig now. Takes us only just hit level 3. And if they try and engage on this Misfortune, there's always the threat that this Jarvan and this Leona could be waiting in the rush, which they are now. So that's why Takesa and Pedersen can't step up. Even though they see Misfortune alone, it's not like that's going to be the case. And if you look at the wave at the moment, it's pushing heavily towards Nordavind. And because they're both melee champions, this puts them in a really rough spot because they're going to have to walk up eventually to contest this wave. But fortunately for them, Shackle is moving down to potentially provide that cover.
Yeah, Aesthetic's already gone in with the invade. Actually spotted out there by the Crescent Slash, and now Shackle knows he's got the health. So Aesthetic's going to have to use the smite to keep himself alive, and Shackle does still have another Lunar Rush available to him. Has got energy coming down, but Aesthetic should be able to clear the wall and get away.
And this is big, not just for Shackle, but it gives a lot of space to Takesa here to now pick up this farm. There's no threat of Aesthetic being here because he's been forced out their own jungle, so they can actually try and push this wave into the tower. And that's the thing, the best time to catch a Jarvan out is when he's doing his cams, because obviously he'll use his flag for the extra attack speed and the damage, and that means his escape isn't available. With junglers like, you know, Sejuani, they will just save the Arctic Assault because they don't need it to clear camps. So even if you catch them, they can just dash away, which is why she was so strong when she was in the meta. But here, it's a situation where Jarvan can be taken out. Right now, they're looking for the engage, but Shackle's here. I think him showing his face was a little bit premature. They could have waited. You could tell that
he'd already walked over a ward, so maybe, although they didn't know that, he had been spotted already.
Yeah, I mean, it felt like there, Nordavind had the information, and they were like, we can win this skirmish, we'll take it. But I feel like Shackle kind of rushed into that to ward them off. Either way, again, Advian and Aesthetic moving together to try and get control of this bot side river, and it means it's going to be able to pick up the Infernal Dragon essentially for free.
Yeah, it's going to be nice objective for Nordavind to pick up early here. However, Takesa is going to be catching this wave pushed into him, so there is no way for them to respond. Top lane's been a bit of a snooze fest so far. Pretty much equal in farm. Fiala is level 6. Weisel closing in. He will hit it on this wave, which means obviously he will be able to offer stuff to his team once that Cannon Barrage is available.
And that's where you can really start to apply a ton of pressure in these skirmishes that you look for on the bot side of the map. And it seems very much that's where Aesthetic is looking to play around. I think it's the right call. You have great scalers in your solo lanes. You have the Gangplank ult to assist wherever you're looking on the map. And Misfortune Leona is so good at applying that pressure, but Advian consistently moving about. And he doesn't know Shackle is there, but he's clearing out the vision behind him, so it makes things a little bit risky for the Diana. And I just love the proactivity, the early Mobi's pickup, and moving around, constantly securing vision. And it's providing safety for your solo laners, because that ward on the top side isn't necessary for the plays they're making in the bot lane, but it means that, you know, Gangplank Rise a little bit safer in that scenario. Well, this could end up going badly because although that pink ward is available in the Pixel Brush, Shackle's essentially evaded it, so would have been a threat of a gank there if Wazer overstepped, but he knows he's playing on weak side, he plays respectfully, and this allows him actually to steal away the blue buff. So energy getting hurt quite a bit here, gives more pushing power over to Niter.
He's fine.
Yeah, cleanse as well, so no massive threat. But just, I'm loving the consistent pressure being applied by Nordavind.
It's good to see them be able to step up to the plate. Now, Bifrost, remember they did beat Singularity yesterday, the undefeated team. Can they beat the lowest team in the league? Because even though it sounds like impressive when you think about it that way, This is the Nordic region. This is a region where these upsets happen oh so many times.
And so far in this game, it's only 8 minutes in, it's only early. I'm not making any grand conclusions yet. But so far, this is the sort of play we expected from Nordavind, you know. I mean, yes, the dive, a little bit botched, but overall, the aggression on the map, the control, the draft, Advian moving about with aesthetic and applying that early pressure. This is what we were looking for out of them. And if they can maintain this, this could be a second win of the split. And their first one that they truly deserve, because that first win they managed to pick up in week 1, I don't think winning a game with all 3 inhibitors down and the enemy team having Baron is ever really convincing.
Shackle's hit 6, so he now has the ultimate available to him. Can obviously help in tandem with a ulti from Takeset from the last breath. There's a lot of ways to set Takeset up. Technically, everyone has a knock-up on the Bifrost team here.
True, so a lot of opportunity if they can get on top of Chrisberg or Niter. But right now, you see, there wasn't a swap that was implemented to get this Herald. It was just Advian moving up, and they took an opportunity. And now they're looking to threaten Fiala. It's an early Herald, so it's only going to get this, the weaker plates at the higher end.
Oh, no. Fiala gets knocked up. He is already low. Throws out the Haymaker, uses the Showstopper. Is going to flash away. Actually, Fiala got himself one. 1 for 1 as the Herald will fall.
And they just chucked the eye off the ball for a second. They felt like the play was done, but you have to respect the power of the set. The shield available from the Haymaker, combined with the true damage, and aesthetic ends up going down. A little bit of a misplay again. The ideas, the concepts are right from Nordavind, but the execution, not quite there. They'll still get a lot of plates, they'll still get a gold lead. They still did kill Fiala. Little mistakes here and there showing that Nordavind aren't quite on full form yet. Still got some issues.
Now Shackle with a Moonfall. They're going to use the Call of the Forge God here. That's man able to find himself one. Energy doesn't commit. There's a lot of CC available. Doesn't want to get caught under the tower, but Chrisberg gets chunked out. He's low on mana as well. This has alleviated some pressure for Takeset as he was just solo farming in the bot lane, trying to catch up.
Yeah, so actually a lot of confidence there from Chrisberg, not just to burn the flash when you saw the Ornn ultimate coming in. There potentially could have been follow-up, but he knew his support is with him. He has flash, if there was any. So it doesn't end up being the summoner, and Bifrost unable to find anything from the play. You do see, I think Pedersen getting jumped on there by Aesthetic, but nothing much going to come from that one. Dragon spawn in 25, and very quickly Nordavind have sort of, well, initially they moved into that 1-3-1 lane assignment, but that was essentially just to cover the pressure mid lane. They are now moving Chrisberg down back to the bot lane. And this is where Takeset and Pedersen a little bit more threatening. Once they have their ults available, that is where Chrisberg has to be respectful, especially since a large part of his kit can be negated by that wind wall. So I have to respect that to a degree. But for now, Nordavind going to look for heavy priority mid lane. They have their jungle and support in position to set Niter up. And this means they're going to be able to move down into that dragon area and get vision. You can see deep control wards already in place for Bifrost, though. And Nordavind, because they push in ahead of them, they're not sweeping them out from behind.
Also note that Wiesel has teleport and Fiala doesn't. Fiala, obviously, after that 4-man dive top lane, had to teleport back to the lane. So he won't have his teleport available. I do like the fact he's picking up this Tiamat. Is able to kind of match the kind of AoE damage that Wiesel's able to do with the barrels to push out these waves. But now Pedersen and Shackle quite comfortable just to step up and try and clear out some of this vision, but they're not doing all of it quite yet.
Chrisberg? Oh, he did get that control ward in the end, but he did walk over that control ward in that river brush. Right now, Aesthetic looking.
Yeah, Pedersen's getting caught on here. Shackle waiting in the wings. Up comes Takeset. Solar Flare's going to connect and jumping in to the fray. Takeset takes a blast cone out, but that's already been one picked up. Energy running low from Niter. Fiala only just makes his way down to join his team. Takeset still got his flash, his exhaust available, but it looks like they're just going to have to give up this dragon. It's not worth contesting. It's not worth dying for. Back to top lane for Fiala, back to mid lane for Energy. That's the second Drake for Nordavind. Does mean we're going to have ourselves a cloud map on this game.
Yeah, I don't think there was any real reason to try and go for that Drake for Bifrost. Pedersen goes down for trying to overstep a little bit. But overall, you didn't need to contest it. It was second dragon, no big concern. And you had no TP on Fiala. This does, however, mean there'll be a window as Wezo used his TP. where Bifrost have TP advantage and potentially look for something. So they could make the most of that. Right now, Nordavind moving their numbers up towards the top side of the map in preparation for that second Herald spawn. On top of that, there's still one plate left on that tower, so if they get in, they could manage to take that one down pretty quickly, or even past the 40-minute point. The plate falls and it becomes really squishy. So opportunity available for that one. Weasel's on the bot side, and you can see that Bifrost going to be a little bit slow on the resets and the rotation. Take set's coming back now.
Y'all need to be careful, or does Advian?
I mean, Advian's, he's feeling confident. Bifrost don't know that Aesthetic wasn't there yet, but they have to make the assumption. So they do take this control ward out, but Advian's already walked through the red side jungle of Bifrost. You can see there's 2 deep wards in that jungle. So they have complete information about the location of Shackle, and this is a very low-risk play.
Ooh.
However, Fiala's looking here. He has a reset and got bot.
Has got that face breaker and the showstopper. Tries to slam him into Chrisberg. Uses himself the haymaker for a bit of damage, and Chrisberg and Advian are just going to get zoned away.
And you're fine with this if you're Nordavind, because Weizor's now laning against no one. He can start hammering away at that tower. He's got the Sheen for a bit more. He uses the Cannon Barrage top to clear out the wave.
Solar Flare gets used, but a great win rule early by Takeset means that there can't be any follow-up from Chrisberg. That's the Cannon Barrage and the Solar Flare down. Rift Arrow will be spawning up shortly. Some tools have already been used by Nordavind. You still got the Cataclysm. You still got the bullet time, though.
Yeah, but I like the play from Nordavind, because you see Bifrost have kept their top laner on this side of the map. So you know that a fight isn't possible because you'll be at a disadvantage in numbers. So instead, they let Weasel push.
Oh, Shackle can use it. The Lunar Rush onto 2. Call of the Forge God's going to get used. Chrisberg goes golden and takes down Advian. Shackle's tanking the tower, and it's a double kill for the Yasuo. He is going to get picked up, and in comes the Realm Warp. In comes Niter, looking to turn the numbers in his favor. Shackle has no way to get away. He gets caught inside the Cataclysm. Aesthetic looks to take him down. And now Energy tries to come up to save his support. Is going to be able to do so.
The engage looked great from Bifrost initially. You see the combo between the Diana and the Yasuo, but unfortunately they were deep under tower. Chrisberg still had flash, and they end up getting chased down by the Rise. So ultimately Nordavind get what they want. They trade pretty evenly in terms of kills, and they get that first tower blood in their pocket.
What was really nice about that was Fiala didn't have his teleport up. We were talking about there will be this window where Weisel doesn't have teleport and Fiala does, but that wasn't that window. Fiala did not have teleport, so he couldn't join the fight. You feel like it could have been very different if that set shows up.
Yeah, could have potentially punished Nitro Aesthetic when they started to overreach if he was able to turn up, but ultimately Nordavind happy with that play.
Absolutely. Takes it though, now has finished up his PD. So there's a bit more kind of shielding, a bit of safety on the Yasuo now. Not seeing the static shiv, which is something we've been seeing quite a lot recently. People go static shiv and then for the shield, they opt in for the Sterix instead because it gives a bit of health, but Takes it wants as early kind of survivability as possible. I think that's respectable considering what Nordavind can offer with their team comp.
I rate the PD a lot better, unless you're planning a split push. And even then, I feel like the PD is just a better option outright. Still get a huge spike when you hit that Infinity Edge, and that's a big point for Bifrost, is when you have the Infinity Edge in the Yasuo, so you have the guaranteed big burst crit, and you have a decent amount of damage on Shackle. Ideally, you have Zhonya's for Shackle, you have the 2 crit items for Takeset and a GA, and then they can do this huge engage, kill Chrisberg. You can't counteract it because of the Zhonya's and the Guardian's Angel, and then you can just try and clean up the fight from there. Or you can look for Niter alternatively, but I think that's a sort of ideal situation in the mid-game, how Bifrost take these team fights. But right now, they're looking for something now. They do have TP advantage, look for this, but Cannon Barrage is ready for Nordavind.
Yeah, already. The Herald going a little low. They're not willing to fully commit. The teleport's coming in. The Cannon Barrage is going to get used. That's the Cataclysm. That's the solo flare. That's a lot of the combo already used, and a shutdown in a 1-for-1 so far. One got it picked up by Pedersen. In comes Takeset with the last breath. Haymaker's going to follow. And now Niter gets jumped onto Bifrost. Just run away with that one. Taking out 3 for 1. They're going to be able to get their hands onto this Rift Herald, but Weizor, he's quite happy with this. He's able to get himself a turret in return.
Yes, there's pros and cons to that. They burn the TP advantage, and yes, they trade down in terms of kills, but they manage to get that tower. Reset's now coming in, and because Niter's down, Bifrost should be able to get into this dragon area, but the scuttle's already going to be taken. Does limit in that regard. So I feel like it's going to be just, you know, both teams trying to enact their pressure around this dragon area. Overall, the previous play, fairly even, with Nordavind taking the tower and equalizing, well, taking away Fiala's TP advantage. Despite the fact that they got the kills, I don't think this drastically puts things heavily in Bifrost's favor, although I will say Takeset getting quite a bit of gold, managed to pick up a BF and that Cloak of Agility now, so he's really strong on the Yasuo. If they go for another fight here, especially when you look at the fact that Bullet Time not available, Solar Flare, Cataclysm, Cannon Barrage, this could be risky for Nordavind to go for. If they find a good engage on a Crispberg or Niter, both flashless, things could end up being a little bit rough here.
Barrels get used, don't find anybody there. Takes it now, got that last breath available to him. Call of the Forge God coming up shortly. Bifrost do not want to lose this Drake. They don't want to be going onto Soul Point at 18 minutes. So they are doing their best to contest it, but they need to get the waves in order. Top lane looks to be pushing away from them, so they'll have that at least going in their favor. It looks like they're just going to trade the Dragon for the Rift Herald here, because the Svedic's given up. He's moved over to that side of the map. And they got mid pressure as well, so could just look to slap it down there. The Dragon will get picked up now.
Yeah, I think Bifrost are happy with that trade. It depends how effectively the Herald is used, because if it takes down mid tower, Nordavind are obviously really happy with that scenario.
A fight here, actually.
Yeah, they want to contest this.
They're coming in. They're going to try and steal it away. They don't get it off as the take set. Going to use the ultimate. That's going to be the damage down.
There's the engage combo. Really hard to avoid that Ornn ult. And once it hits, the Yasuo can just press on and follow up right now. Fiala a little bit aggressive here, but he has numbers to back him up. Coming up from the top side.
Has got the showstopper available to Fiala here, but they're just going to group up as 4 in this mid lane. Push out the wave. Svetic has the Herald, and he's not alive for another 17 seconds, so Bifrost can get back to their base, reset, spend some of this gold. So you think Takeset's looking to finish his Infinity Edge as soon as possible. He's actually going to head back towards the mid lane, try and make sure that Crispberg and Avian don't get too much.
You need to maintain pressure here, because if they chunk this tower out, it'll just be the Herald charge away from dying. So that is the concern here. Energy actually going towards the top side to apply pressure, but that means their main source of safe wave clear isn't mid. So resets now actually coming in from Energy, and this is the point where Nordavind can actually look to just get the mid tower. They're actually going to cancel Pedersen's recall.
Yeah, he doesn't have Call of the Forge God.
Yeah,
Herald's going to get thrown down here. There is no one in place on the side of Bifrost to actually be able to contest this.
Yeah, and there's actually, they've pinged out where Shackle is. He just cleared a camp on a ward. So they know exactly where the Dan is. They know there's no threat. They get the tower pretty easily.
Oh, Shackle.
Nordavind will take that one.
He just gets jumped onto. The Wombo is going to get thrown out into the Solar Flare, but he is able to get away there. Call of the Forge God's still not available. We'll take out the Rift Herald. It did get a second charge off, though. Chunking out that mid lane tier 2. Now the gold has to get spent by Bifrost.
Felt like they were holding on for as long as they could, but ultimately that just meant there was a clear window for Nordavind to take that mid tower. So in terms of structures, in terms of gold, Nordavind absolutely ahead. And obviously they're scaling really strong, but there is still going to be very much ways Bifrost can come back into this game. It's all about finding that backline access, getting onto the Rise, getting onto the Misfortune, landing their combo, and right now Takeset, he's got the Infinity Edge and the Phantom Dancer, he's got the 100% crit, that extra burst damage. So very threatening. If Shackle lands a big ult combo and it's followed up on, Bifrost could win a team fight almost at any goal disadvantage, to a degree. But especially with the Yasuo, they're strong.
Crispberg has to flash away. Now a lot of damage being thrown onto Energy. They use the bullet time. Everything gets thrown down. Takes it, gets caught inside the Cataclysm, has to flash away. Teleport is going to get completed. Followed up by a Realm Warp. And now Niter and Crispberg looking for their opening, but Pedersen coming forward. He has that Call of the Forge God. Searing charges away. They're looking to chase in. That's going to be a 4-man last breath. The turnaround could be here as Bifrost have taken down 1, have taken down 2. But now you can see the gangplank. Weisel's trying to do his best to turn this back in his favor. He's picked up a double kill. Fiala does need to be a little bit careful. Has those grit to work with. Shackle trying to jump in. Gets the shield off of the Pale Cascade. And now Niter closing in the gap. The showstopper comes out, but Weisel eats an orange and he cleanses his way out of that. Solar Flare. Knock up, everything gets layered down and Fiala will fall. Niter looking for something onto Shackle, will take him out with the Rune Prison, and it's a delayed ace from Nordavind.
Ultimately a fight where Bifrost didn't have the numbers to do that. They'd already lost energy, and yet they still try to commit to this turnaround play. And although it looked great, it looked flashy, the damage follow-up wasn't there. They get Crispberg, but the cleanup is available, and Nordavind have pushed themselves even further into the lead. Right now, a little bit worrisome for for Bifrost, especially when they gave over that Yasuo shutdown.
And what you're seeing here is what you were talking about all day yesterday, ease of execution. It's very easy to make this Nordavind comp work right, especially in these small funneled in parts of the jungle where you can just flop all your AoE down, and it looks so flashy. Like you said, you get the moonfall into the last breath, and it looks like such a filthy combo. It looks like the team fight should be done, but all of a sudden Weisel shows up. You've got the damage from Niter just bouncing through everybody. Everybody grouped up just plays so well into the Nordavind comp.
I think as well, the play they went for in mid lane was really just not smart. You should know the timers of the enemy team's flash. You should have them noted down consistently. You should have been aware that Chrisbergs was back up. And so that play should never be considered for you, because you dive deep into the tower like that and you don't factor in his flash, and you will just go down like Energy did. Right now, Dragon spawning in 15 and both teams posturing. Bifrost down in Summoners. You can see flashes from their mid jungle and their Yasuo down. But still potentially looking for something aesthetic.
Yeah, looking for take set here. No flash available to him. Trying to get off in time. They get that knock up. That will be followed up. In comes Weisel, though. He's been able to get himself another one. Takes it, doing a good job to stay alive, but Weisel gets himself a double kill. Gets himself a triple kill. And Nordavind, they use the AoE, they press their R, and they win the team fight.
I mean, they play around the summoner times. They know Takesa had no flash. They know when they jump on him, his only option was to dash into the enemy team. And sure, he did a great job surviving that long, but ultimately, he was focused on surviving and not dishing out damage. And that came down to a fight which was front to back, which is exactly what Nordavind want. They want their front line dealing with all these threats from Bifrost, and it allows Chrisberg and Niter just to sit back and free hit. And even without the goal discrepancy, which by the way is huge at the moment, that was a great team fight for Nordavind, and there was very little risk of things going wrong there. So they get the Dragon as well, they get the Baron. They're in a great spot, and this could be the first convincing win from Nordavind in this split of the Nordic Championship.
This could be the first time we see the Nordavind we expected to see here in the Nordic Championship. As Bifrost, they are looking a little rattled now.
It's rough, because you need a huge engage to come in if you want to turn things around. But the problem is, there's a triple threat on this composition. You have Weisel, who's still such a monster, and the hardest one to take down, actually, because he's got a GA. He's pretty bulky. And he has those oranges to mitigate the CC. And I feel like even if you kill Chrisberg, even if you kill Niter, there's no guarantee you win the team fight, especially at an over 8,000 gold disadvantage.
A lot of looking for a pick potentially here. Not going to hit anyone, though. And Niter quite comfortably just pushing up this top lane with the Baron buff. I like the Legacy of Shurima, though, getting used here by Energy. It does obviously just slow down that Baron buff by just a little bit. Enough to maybe save themselves an inhibitor turret, but remember there was already a charge from a Rift Herald onto this mid lane tier 2, so it's already pretty low, and I don't know if Bifrost can defend this.
Yeah, I think these are just going to start going down. They're pushed into the 1-3-1 setup, which does not favor them. Azir doesn't want to be in the side lane. He wants to be wave clearing mid, and you're limited to essentially the Diana and the Yasuo, who are not great sources of wave clear.
Fiala going in onto Weisel here. Actually uses the showstopper. Weisel taking a lot of tower shots. Fiala did flash, but they're looking to slow him down. Cannon barrage is coming down, and Weisel actually is holding his life. Solar flares come through. GA's going to come down. Takes it, jumps onto Advian in the back lane, but Chrisberg looks to join the fray. Weisel's back from the grave as a bullet time will mark him with a triple kill, and Chrisberg will pick up the next. Turret will go down, and Nordavind, they just had control of this game from moment one, and they're looking to continue that control and close out this game for their second win of the Nordic Championship. It's going to be a big ulti by Energy, but he will just go down to pad the KDAs. Chrisberg finally had that game on an 80 carry where he was able to do something. 27 minutes on the clock, and Nordavind take out Bifrost.
That is the Nordavind we've been waiting for all split. And I think there are a lot of things to praise there. Niter on a champion where it doesn't matter what point of the game he's going to be relevant as long as he's not super behind. So unlike that Pantheon we saw, Aesthetic, even though there were a couple of mistakes, he's able to apply the consistent pressure. And then when it comes to team fights, he's the primary engage. You can just jump in, press that ult. Chrisberg did not feel threatened by the other side. Yes, they would look for him, but they had multiple carries who could continually put out the damage. And also they had tools to sort of keep him alive. It was just mainly he can sit back at a range while everyone gets mixed in the fray. And I think for Bifrost, they kind of thought too hard about it. I think is the thing, is they had all these flex picks where we really had very little idea of where things were going until the last moment. But ultimately, when it was that up against easy to execute teamfight composition with scaling solo laners, potential 1-3-1, it was just very easy for Nordavind to play that one out. And I think this is a good direction that they've realized, look, we're struggling. We should have been the best team. We aren't. So go back to something basic, and it worked for them.
Yeah, it's ease of execution. We keep saying that term, but it really is, and it's just been doing so much work for all these teams that are picking wins up here in the Nordic Championship. That does now mean that Bifrost are 3-2 remaining. Sorry, 3-3, and Nordavind are 2-4. This means that our last 2 games of the day will now force 2 teams to tie with Bifrost in the standings,
and 2 to tie with
Nordavind. So it's the league of tiebreakers so far here. But that was a fantastic game by Nordavind. But our next game is going to be the key one to watch. Singularity taking on Vipers. This is the decider for first place. So don't go anywhere. We'll see you in a second.